Welcome to yet another episode on our channel, Healthy in Nutrition. My name is Joy Maina, a nutritionist licensed and certified by the Kenya Nutrition and Dietetics Institute. On today's episode, we're going to be discussing on tips to ensure that your child likes and enjoys new foods. On last week's episode, we discussed on key things to consider when introducing solid foods to your baby. In case you missed it, we have linked the video in the description box. Kindly click on it to learn what we discussed last week. Today's episode, where we're going to be discussing on tips to ensure that your child likes and enjoys new foods. So for the first tip, we're going to be discussing on embracing the mess. So when we're talking about embracing the mess, we know that children can be quite messy, especially during meal times, because this is when they're learning the neuromotor skills, when they learn how to take the food from the plate all the way into their mouths. And this might seem normal for us as adults, but it's quite a task when it comes to children. This is when they're learning, and that's why it can be quite messy. So let's learn to embrace the mess so that they can learn how to enjoy the foods that they're eating. Especially around 9 months, that's when we introduce the finger foods. And before they learn how to take all of them all the way from the plate into the mouth, they'll create a bit of a mess. They'll want to play around with the food, which is also allowed because they are learning how to develop a relationship with this food. On the second point, we're going to talk about practicing responsive feeding. On responsive feeding, we have quite a number of pointers, and we're going to make a whole video about practicing responsive feeding. Kindly look out for the next video that we're going to make next week to learn a lot more. But today we're going to touch on just a number of pointers. One of them being ensuring that this child is feeding at the same time that the other family members are feeding. You see that most of the times we prepare around the same food that we're preparing for the child as the same as we are preparing for the other family members. If this is the case, this child will learn how to like this food because they are seeing that this is the same food that the other family members are having. If it's not the case, they'll still learn that during a family mealtime, someone sits down and finishes the food that is on their plate. So having family meal times will help this baby to learn that food on the plate goes into the mouth, someone chews, and they swallow. So whenever we're introducing a new food and the other family members are also having the same food, they'll find it easier to accept than when they would be eating all by themselves. Point number 3, we're going to be discussing on ensuring that this baby is comfortable during mealtimes. It's important not to be in a rush when it comes to feeding children, whether they're sitting on a high chair or you are sitting them on your lap. Ensure that they are comfortable first. Kindly do not do any forceful feeding where children, wanashikwa mapua. Don't do that. Just ensure that they are comfortable. Observe for hunger and satiety cues so that this child can be comfortable when they are eating. The other thing is to ensure that there are no or minimal distractions during mealtimes. I have seen that sometimes during meal times we like to use cartoons, cocomelon to ensure that this baby feeds well. But actually when introducing new foods or even during meal times, ideally there should be minimal to no distractions to ensure that this child interacts with this food and they're able to feed well. During this time, like I had said earlier, it should be like a family meal time, whether it's the mother and the baby, the nanny and the baby, or the whole family that is eating at the same time the baby is eating. It will help this baby to learn that during a mealtime, you just take your food and finish. So ensure that there are little to no distractions during mealtime. The fifth point that you're going to be discussing is trying to prepare the meals in different ways. You see that sometimes, let's take for example, we're introducing potatoes in as much as we've not cooked the whole meal, let's take potatoes as our example. If we boil and mash potatoes, they're going to taste quite different from when we fry the potatoes. For example, when you're cooking chips. So if this child, when you introduced potatoes for the first time, you boiled and mashed and they did not quite like them, when you're introducing the potatoes the next time, you can try and prepare them in form of frying, or you can even bake the potatoes. That way, you'll see which form or which method of cooking method this child prefers the food in. If it's when they are mashed, that's well and good. If it's when they are fried, that's how you serve the food most of the times to this baby. Also, for preparing the food in different ways, you can try even cutting the food in different shapes. For example, ugali. You can use a cookie cutter, cut the food into different shapes, and this way the child will be curious to know which food this is. That way you will learn, you will be in a better way, in a better position to ensure that this child is enjoying the new foods as you're introducing them, introducing the foods. Try and be very patient with this baby. Don't forcefully feed the baby. I know I have said that previously, but try and be very, very patient so that they can like and enjoy this food. Thank you for watching today's episode. See you next time, same time.